Whether you develop your own film at home or a lab does it for you, DSLR or mirrorless camera film scanning can be very easy. The items you'll need to do so include a copy stand or tripod, a shutter release cable, a film holder, a copy light, as well as a macro lens. The copy stand I use is a DIY project, and I can include some of the items I use to actually make it in the description below, and if you want a full video on it, let me know as well. I use a generic shutter release cable for my Sony and it works. For my film holder, I use the Veloy 360 bundle, and it includes holders for 35mm film as well as 120. The copy light I use is a basic one I got off of Amazon, and it seems to work perfectly for me. Finally, the macro lens I use is the Tokina 100mm f2.8 for the Sony system. Now, those items that I just listed are items you don't necessarily need. You know, you can get away with the basic things. You can make your own copy stand. You can just use a 2-second timer to release a shutter. Instead of a film holder, you can use magnet. You can get a cheap copy light from Amazon. And instead of a macro lens, you can use extension tubes. The first thing that I'm going to do is take my camera and attach it to my copy stand here. Right beneath the camera is the light table itself, and then here I have the Veloy scanning rig, which will also go beneath here. Of course, I can adjust the camera's height, but I will only do so once everything here is all set up. Another thing I forgot to mention, you'll need some sort of rocket blower or some sort to blow any dust that might be on your film, as well as some scissors to store it afterwards. Now I have the timer release cable plugged into the camera, which is this right here. I have a small level that I will place on the film kit itself to make sure it is level, and then I can adjust the feet of it to make sure it is where it needs to be. And perfect, now there's a level, I can move this aside. I do have another level right here that I will be placing onto the camera. There is a setting in the camera to do this, but I just prefer to use the actual level. I find it to be a little bit quicker than others might find it. Now that is leveled, I can start to move down my camera. We need to make sure the camera is in manual focus mode, of course. Now that the camera is all hooked up, we can start to assemble everything else that's beneath it. Here we do have the copy light. Here I do have the Veloy film holder. Right here I have a small level that I'm going to place on it to make sure it is actually leveled, to make sure this is level as well as the camera. And perfect, it's actually already leveled to be where it needs to be. Now we're just going to check the camera's level. Alright, now the camera is leveled. That is all looking fine and dandy. One thing I want to mention about film scanning in the settings of the camera, you want to have an aperture at about an f9, so it is very wide open and you can really get all that depth from the photo. And you want to try to have the lowest ISO as possible, because you don't want to introduce digital noise when there could also already be the grain from the film itself. So that's why you need the shutter cable. Here I am going to adjust my settings on my camera and bring it to an f9, bring my shutter down, align this with it. The first thing I'm going to do is, yes, sure, you should maybe be wearing gloves for this, but I particularly don't. I'm going to dust blow my film really quickly. Now here, make sure I don't actually touch the actual photos. I'm just going to dust some of these off, both sides. And I'm going to only be touching the sides of the film and feed this through the holder here until the first frame is fully visible here. Once the first frame is in, I'm going to have to adjust my actual Sony camera here. Just this first. And then we're gonna most likely end up moving. Bring all the macro all the way out. And you see it gets very, very low. This is like a trial and error process here. Adjust. Here I'm just making sure that all the frames are actually correct. I'm going to take you off the tripod so I can show you exactly what I'm seeing. So now that you're off the tripod, here you can see that I am just framing the photo around. See here. And I'm just trying to get a smallest amount of border. Focus, focus, focus. There we go. Smallest amount of border here for me. Here you can see that the lens is very, very close to the actual negative itself. That's the whole macro purpose of the lens. Now I'm just trying to fix all of my settings to make sure it is properly exposed here, and then I will start to adjust here to make sure the image is actually in focus. Here I'm just making those macro adjustments on my lens to get this in focus here on the screen, and I do have focus peaking on, so it will start to turn red slightly when it is in focus, which looks like it is right here. Perfect. So now that that is as it should be, and you can see it here, I am now just going to click the button and take the photo of the negative. And like so, I took the photo of that one, and I'm just going to continue to glide this through a little bit. So I can feed it through the actual feeder, and then I can end up turning it, dust off a little bit. Should be perfect again. Like so. And again, hit the button. And now I'm going to finish the whole 24 exposure roll and see how long this takes me. And I want to add very quickly, once you set your focus on your lens, you really don't have to touch it. It kind of just goes and works as you need it to. Just like that, I'm done scanning one roll. Now that I'm done actually scanning the film with my camera, we're going to jump into Lightroom with a program called Negative Lab Pro, and it will convert all the images from negatives to positives, and I'll show you how I do that. You can see I'm in a different shirt, have glasses on. Today's a new day from when I last recorded. There was an issue when I went to go screen record the Lightroom session, so right now I'm just going to rework it and go from there. Here you see I have 8 photos actually uploaded onto Lightroom right here in the bottom, and we are in the Develop tab. So the first thing you're going to do when you're in Lightroom is you're going to hit your white balance dropper, and you're going to scan around the photo itself, and then that's where you're going to choose your white balance for the photo. That way it will develop the image as it should be. Now we're going to go into the crop tab as I already clicked, and we're going to just crop it to just fit the photo here. And one moment actually, because I want to click that my crop locked, because when you shoot a 35mm camera and you then digitize with a full frame sensor, you are then having the same size essentially. So you want to keep it at the same aspect ratio. Fix it here, crop everything out. This is probably the most tedious part of the session, is doing all the cropping. It's alright if I do miss some of it, and just align it, straighten it, and then we're hit enter to fix it. and then that is now the image, what you'll have in the image. From there, we're going to end up using the caret key, and then hitting N, which will then launch Negative Lab Pro. So I'm going to do that now. Usually when you launch the program, there will be a button saying convert the negatives, and you'll also get to choose the setting of what you want to convert to, whether it's Frontier, Neurosto. There's a couple of different ones to choose from. Frontier is usually a good one to go with. It's just a basic baseline, but then once you hit the button and the negative is converted, you can see here that there is a positive image here, and then you can use these tabs here to kind of fix anything in your photo if you don't really like it, and the way the exposure came out, or if it's a little too dark. You can kind of adjust these a little bit, as you can see, and there will be some changes. Sometimes you can also do auto warm. It'll help, bring some warmth to the photo. To me, this is too much. So I'm going to go back to this auto neutral, and then I will adjust this slightly myself. I already do like the greens in here, so I'm not going to touch the tint. And I'm going to bring up the darks just a slight bit. I find if you really work with the brightness, the contrast, and the darks, and then the temperature, you usually will get the photo you want to get out of it. So right here, this is one example. Hit apply, and that's the photo itself. Go to the next photo. Again, do the same thing. So we're going to use the white balance dropper. Go to the border, click it. Now we're going to crop in the image. Like so. Hit enter. Again, convert and launch Negative Lab Pro. So here you go, you see the photo. Because I have already done these photos previously, you do see that some of these numbers are already changed, which is why they might look different than what they would be originally. So I'm just going to actually go back to the standard. A lot of people will also use cinematic log or cinematic flat to then edit their images. I just stay with this lab standard. I still end up getting images I enjoy out of it. Again, next photo, white balance, dropper, go in for your crop. Fix that like so. Hit enter. Launch Negative Lab Pro. Just like so, you can see that. I might even fix this one more than when I had it earlier. I'm going to decrease the saturation, which also will help with the darks as well. Just a slight bit. Perfect. So just like that, you can see the process of how to do it. First, you want to do your white balance dropper, fix your white balance on the border. Next, you want to fix your crop of the photo to only get the actual image in your crop, because or else it will mess with your Negative Lab Pro process. Then you launch Negative Lab Pro, you convert the negative, and then you kind of edit your photo how you want. You can edit it inside the Negative Lab Pro program, but also you can edit it outside the program as well with the other side chain dials here as well. You can use these to edit, but just remember, because it was once a negative, if you think you're going to brighten your exposure by going right, you actually need to go left, because it's going to be opposite of what it will say here. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like down below, as well as comment if you have any questions or any details that I might have missed or things you might be doing for your digitizing process. If you really enjoyed the video, maybe you'll even want to subscribe for future content, but thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.